Welcome to Where They Wander. We are Kat and Kev, and we travel full-time around the United States in our Grand Design Imagine.
Truth or Consequences in New Mexico is famous for its hot springs, and we are at Riverbend Hot Springs in Truth or Consequences, and we are going to have a private soak. This is a hotel. It's quite small, but it's beautiful. But they also have an RV park, which is actually across the road over there, so you could come and stay here in the RV park. This was originally a bait shop, a minnow and bait shop from 1940 to 1980. In 1990, it became a youth hostel. Just recently, it has become this oasis of these hot mineral spas. There's over 38 different minerals in these pools, and as we all know, mineral pools have such restorative qualities, so we're excited to go in here now. They actually say, if you're unable to whisper, please do not come to the private pools.
We highly recommend Riverbend Hot Springs. This was the only reason we came here, and we weren't disappointed. We stayed just 2 nights at Elephant Butte State Park, New Mexico, before heading out to our next stop, Lost Dutchman State Park in Arizona.
Well, here we are, it's dark 30. What do you think, Kat?
We were up at 5, leaving at 6, because we have an awesome app called Drive-In Weather, and we need to get off the road before 11 o'clock because there's going to be crosswinds, 35 miles an hour. The Lost Dutchman State Park is one of the most popular state parks in Arizona.
This was very late in the season, and we were blessed to get a great spot. Even though it looks empty in this shot, this was a Thursday. It was packed at the weekend.
Guess where we're at? You'll never guess. We're at the Lost Dutchman State Park. This park is located in Apache Junction, and we're headed out the Apache Trail right now.
Lost Dutchman is named after Jacob Weitz, and it's not actually correct because he was actually German, which is Deutsch, and Americans understood that to say Dutch. On his deathbed, he had this huge nugget, I suppose you would say, of gold ore, and he convinced people on his deathbed that there was a mine here that they would find. Of course, it wasn't true. He'd actually mined this much further north in Prescott, Arizona. Obviously a comedian to the end, because people spent years looking for this mine. Definitely persists as a story. Anyhow, we're now going to do this Apache Trail drive, and it is in the Tonto National Forest. We have arrived at our first stop, and our first stop is the Canyon Lake Vista. Like with most land in this area, this was originally Apache land, which is why it's called the Apache Trail. In the early 1900s, they wanted to build the Roosevelt Dam, so they used the trail, which was the Apache Trail, to create a road, and this is where they made their base to then build the dam. Sadly, because the road is closed, we can't get to the dam, but we're going to keep going on our drive and see where we can get to and maybe see some more vistas, but it is beautiful up here. Our first stop was the Palo Verde Recreation Site. This is a beautiful lake. There are swimming beaches here, there are people paddleboarding, jet skiing, boating, fishing. It's absolutely beautiful, but look at these guys. We left the lake and we've driven further along the scenic drive, and we've come to Tortilla Flats. Now this is a campground which is behind me, but it's only open in the winter because it is far too hot in the summer. But we're here at the Superstition Saloon, which of course we won't go in, but also there's some history here of the Dutchman and so on. So let's go have a look.
Jacob Waltz, Arizona's most celebrated scoundrel, is memorialized here. Tortilla Flat was established in 1904, and it's rumored that Jacob Waltz laid the cornerstone for the restaurant that was originally on this site. However, he died in 1891, so you tell us. This is a fun place to stop, and is very popular with bikers. There's a great bar and restaurant here, along with the general store, gift shop, and ice cream parlor. There's also a tiny museum. While this was the last remaining stagecoach stop along the Apache Trail, the oldest buildings are the general store and ice cream shop, which were built in the 1940s. Most of the other buildings were constructed in the late 1980s after a fire destroyed the existing buildings. Did Jacob Waltz give a deathbed confession to where his mine was?
It is said that he did hand a huge piece of gold on his deathbed to somebody. However, it has been proven that you could not find gold that large around here. So this was the first Tortilla Flats accommodation school, and it was established on this spot in 1932, and 14 students attended. We are leaving Tortilla Flats. The road is closed, but we're still going to do this scenic drive and have a look at the views and the area around here, and of course where it's closed we'll just turn back. But look, there's water down here. That's kind of pretty.
Beautiful day out here. We've got lots of cactus flowers, hardly any traffic except for that guy.
And we're going to go this way. We're going to have a look this way because I believe you can get a good view of the canyon this way. Don't let the fact that you cannot do the entire loop of the Apache Trail stop you from coming on this drive. It is a magnificent drive.
And I think you can go all the way around to the other end of the road and drive to where it's closed that way as well. But that was like an hour and a half just to get to the start of that road.
We enjoyed another amazing sunset at Lost Dutchman, then woke bright and early to avoid the heat while we visited the Superstition Mountain Museum.
One of the amazing things about being in the desert and being in such dry air is it can be very hot out here, and if I just step a couple feet inside this veranda, I could stay here all day and be cool. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, here we are. Oh, here he is, look. Prospector. The California pepper tree sculpture from the courtyard of the Superstition Grand Hotel in Apache Junction was carved and painted by local artist Clint Taylor and donated by Betsy Grandlich.
Where are we, Kat?
We are in the newly renovated museum here at Apache Junction. They had it done during 2020 and they're very proud of it, so we want to show it to you guys.
So what's it like in the wiki?
It's very cool. This is what they would use to be able to shade themselves so that they could work. There's the old metate in here for them to grind and so on. And this is what it would have looked like.
The museum covers the history of the area beginning with the Native Americans and taking you all the way to modern day.
Spanish conquistadors, and they talk here about forgotten crown. In the 15th and 16th centuries, Spain Navy dominated much of the globe. These artifacts were actually found in a cave close by here. It's the helmet, the armor, a stirrup, and a sword. Even though the Spanish records of exploration are well documented, no military expeditions are noted in the Superstition Mountains, making this soldier's armor a mystery.
And of course, when it was a territory, they had the Indian Wars, sadly. The bloodiest chapters of Western history are associated not with mining or ranching, but with the Indian Wars. If you look at this story through a modern lens, it's impossible to judge the true injustice done to the Native American people or the difficult position imposed on the US Army. Definitely a Wild West time. This was 1789, and Pauline Weaver. He explored much of Arizona, and Weaver's Needle is likely named after him. His impact on the territory was immense, including scouting, prospecting, and fur trading. Hatters in London, Paris, New York, and Boston demanded immense cargoes of beaver. Well, if you've watched our video from Mackinac Island, you will know that it wasn't London. These hats were made in northern England. They were made in Stockport, which is my hometown, and then they were shipped to London, and that is where people bought them. They were not made in London.
Stockport was a major centre of hat making from the Industrial Revolution until the 20th century. There were 5 major hat manufacturers in Stockport. All of these photos are of the Battersby Hat Works. This firm at one point was making 12,000 hats a week.
His name was Hacksaw Tom.
It was a bandit that robbed wagons and stagecoaches on the Apache Trail.
This is actual memorabilia from his outlaw days. You think it's funny, but I'm sure he was terrifying in the day. Imagine this coming up on you when you're riding along in your carriage. So despite all of these bullets and the mask and how scary it looks, Hacksaw Tom never fired a shot. And in fact, he was friends with some of the stagecoach drivers who used to drive over to him so that the people on the stage could say that they were held up by Hacksaw Tom. Because of the steep grade of the wagons going up the mountain, they would slow to an almost stop with the horses, and he would just go on board and say, give me your goods. Apparently a nice guy, though. There's some beautiful amethyst here that they found. And then, of course, you've got the iron pyrite, which is what people would believe was gold. They call it fool's gold. Interesting part here is that Jacob Waltz was allegedly, the owner of this mine, but he really didn't find this mine. It later suggests that the Peralta family from Mexico were the people who originally found this mine. So the interesting thing is that Kevin's family heritage is Peralta's. Richard Holmes looked for this mine and was obsessed from 1891 to 1908 when he passed the torch to his son, George, who then spent the next 88 years of his life looking for this mine. These are some of the artifacts that they took on these expeditions to find the mine, which of course they never found. How sad. Saddle was made approximately 1930. Absolutely beautiful craftsmanship, all handmade. We're talking about the women who ranched out here and the ridiculous clothing that they still wore, even though they were out in the desert, and how they longed to dress like the Mexican ladies, who seemed to be an awful lot cooler, and I'm sure they were. They still wore corsets and everything. Whilst this is not actually from this area, it's from Phoenix. This came from the Farmer and Merchants Bank of Phoenix from 1894. Would you like to make a withdrawal, sir? I'm sorry, we only accept gold.
Your money or your life?
Take my life, I'm saving up. Well, they certainly have a right to be proud of this museum. Like they said, they renovated it during 2020 when, of course, they were closed. They had a professional historian come in, and they've done a really good job. It's small, but it's got a lot of information about this area and the Wild West and the Arizona Territory. The exterior of the museum is wonderful. It is 15 acres of exhibits and buildings, some of which were used in famous movies and TV shows. So let's go have a look around.
In fact, over 100 movies or TV show episodes were filmed here and in the surrounding mountains, such as Gunsmoke, Bonanza, How the West Was Won, and The Three Amigos.
They have a blacksmith's shop here. It looks like maybe that they do have somebody that does actual blacksmith work here. Maybe at the weekends. We're here on a Monday, of course, so it's not, he'll be back Saturday, it says. The barn figured prominently in dozens of Western films and TV Western episodes shot at the Apache Movie Ranch. Today, the barn houses movie memorabilia from Apache land, as well as several vintage horse-drawn vehicles.
This beautiful neon sign is pretty much all that's left of the legendary Grand Hotel that once hosted movie and TV stars in Apache Junction.
Oh my goodness.
Oh your goodness. Let's go see the trains, Kev.
Normally, there would be the mission on this end, beginning with the missions, and then they would have cattle ranchers, and then it basically gives the history of the area leading all the way back over here to the 1940s. There will be Model Ts and so on, and then it's all lit up, and they have figurines and buildings, but they take it down in the summer simply because it's just far too hot, and also the animals ruin it. The last stamp mill we were at was at the Lost Horse Mine, where we hiked to, and that's in Joshua Tree. So I'll put a link to that hike up so you can see, we have actually hiked to these places too. So let's go have a look at this. Thing's huge.
They would use this to break the ore down before they would use chemicals to extract the gold. It's not like what they call placer gold, where you have flakes of gold in that you could see that are gold. It's just like
It's in
ore.
ore.
It's black sand, basically.
Right. 28 days and 5 1,000-mile round trips were required to disassemble and move this 20 stamp mill from the ghost town of Bland, New Mexico to Apache, Arizona.
They would use this to break up the rocks and get rid of most of the rock that didn't have the ore in it, so they only would have to transport the ore that contained the most amount of the whatever mineral they're trying to get.
And this is what it means when it says stamp mill. These huge heavy weights would just bash down onto the rocks to break them up.
Normally these are built on a hill, and they would have the exit of the mine right on the side of the hill at the back side of this, and so they'd use gravity with these hoppers to just put the ore right through here first.
This is what the building looked like around the stamp mill.
You're standing right where the belts would be, so the belts would go around this down at the bottom, and then right above your head, if you look above your head, there's huge wheels that turn the flywheel.
Hold on, I'm gonna come back out here.
That the belt would go around right above your head.
This would have been the cyanide tank, which again is huge. It's probably about 20 feet in diameter. And this is where they would process the ore once it had been through the crusher to bring out the gold. So we just read this mill actually runs. They run it in season, which is from November to March, and it runs every Thursday and Saturday. How incredible would it be to see this actually going? Here we have an example of the barber's shop, but he wasn't just a barber. He would also do bleaching, teeth extractions, and bloodletting. He'd also make wigs and hair pieces. This is such a great place for kids, I tell you. He's been a bad boy. Sheriff's watching out for him now, right here. Oh, she must be visiting. I think she's visiting. What amazes me is this is an actual stagecoach, was donated, but look how small this thing is. It's tiny, it's absolutely tiny.
Let's go this side. I can't get in from this one. I have to go down one step, but it's just too high.
There's not an awful lot of room. And then to be traveling for how many days on these things? Oh my goodness. It's a great thing though, this is awesome. I'm gonna take your picture. Now an iconic landmark on the museum grounds is so named because it figured prominently in the Elvis Presley movie, Charro. They hold chapel services here every Sunday. Oh my gosh, you can get married. Of course you can get married here.
The chapel was our final stop on the tour, and we headed back to camp to take night shots over the mountains. We hope you enjoyed our brief visit to New Mexico and Arizona. Join us next week as we head all the way to the Oregon coast. Until then, we'll see you on the trail.